6 p.m. on the 25th day of March, 2023, and the Oconee County Board of Zoning Appeals will now come to order. First item of business is approval of minutes. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion or any comments or changes? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Nobody unanimous, okay, none opposed. Okay, with regard to the meeting tonight, we have a brief statement of some of the rules and procedures that we go through. First, the applicant will provide a presentation about the needs for the variance for 5 minutes, and the chairman has the ability to extend that period if there's a reason to do so. The staff will address any additional issues, and then we will have a citizen comment period, and citizens can speak for 5 minutes. And what we would ask you is, if somebody has made your point and you, rather than just keep repeating the same thing over and over, we'd ask that you just comment that you agree with them and then let it go at that, just for the sake of expediency. Then after the citizen comments, the applicant will have an opportunity for a rebuttal, and then there would be questions from the board. Once the board starts its deliberations, there will be no further comment from the public. And with that, we start with the first item, which is variance application number VA 24000004. Cliff Kaiser is requesting relief from the density requirements of the Lake Overlay District, TMS 162-06-01-014, with an address of 355 McAllister Road, West Union, South Carolina, 29696. With the applicant, oh, you're already there. Okay.
Sorry, didn't mean to jump the gun. Let me just start by stating our situation. I think there was a little
Sir,
confusion.
if I can,
Oh,
just
sorry.
state your name first,
Oh,
please.
yeah, my name is Cliff Kaiser.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. There was a little confusion with some of our neighbors about what exactly we were asking for and not asking for. And you guys probably understand what's going on. We already have a permit for a detached garage with upper level storage and under slab plumbing for a future garage bathroom. That construction is in progress, and it's not the basis of the variance request. The variance request is based on our desire to build out the upper level space to accommodate overflow guests to our home. The plan for that build-out includes features associated with a formal dwelling unit, which is why we didn't get a permit for that initially. That's because our lot is only 0.8 of an acre, and we're asking for relief from that density ordinance in order, which requires a full acre to accommodate a second dwelling, as you well know. There's no intent for that upper level to be used as an ongoing residence, and it will absolutely not become a rental unit, but I'll get into more of that in a minute. As noted, our property is less than an acre. While the math of the density calculation works against us, the topography of our lot is such that it can much more easily accommodate a second dwelling than many 1+ acre lakefront lots, which have ravines and steep drop-offs. So from a physical density perspective, I would suggest we are well within the intent of the ordinance, if not the math. As noted in the variance application, our proposed build is compliant with our HOA restrictions. This is supported by a letter of confirmation from the HOA board president, which was uploaded with the application. In looking into the intent of the overlay and the ordinance, I'll use the actual text that I found in the ordinance, that the overlay is intended to protect water quality, maintain natural beauty, and limit secondary impacts of new development that may negatively affect the lifestyles of those living near the lakeshore and the general enjoyment of the lakes by all citizens. So with respect, we respect and appreciate the intent of that overlay and the associated density ordinance. And as full-time residents, we share the desire to protect the Lake Residential District from overbuild, which could be detriment to quality of life. In that vein, though, I'd like to speak to each of the points in the published intent as it pertains to our request, starting with protecting water quality. As we are already approved for the garage build and are strictly adhering to runoff management requirements during the build and after completion. Additionally, the garage will have a dedicated septic system which will only be lightly used based on our expected use of the accommodations. Maintaining natural beauty. As you can see from the provided garage elevations, whatever in the application, we are building an aesthetically pleasing structure which matches the design and color scheme of our home, as required by the HOA covenants. The garage will not be visible from the lake. It's blocked by the main house, which itself is obscured by trees to a considerable degree when they are fully leaved. We have taken great care to manage our shoreline in compliance with Duke and county regulations. We take that very seriously. We also plan to make significant investment in landscaping around the garage to enhance the aesthetics for our neighbors. I understand that none of this is specific to the dwelling question, but it's difficult to completely separate the dwelling request from the garage build. Limiting secondary impacts. I'll start with boating activity. Our boat dock is already at the maximum of 1,000 square feet as permitted. There is no risk of additional boat activity or storing of boats resulting from the dwelling. On the chance that a guest would bring a boat when visiting, the added traffic would be no different than as if we had no second dwelling and they were staying in our house or staying at any other location in the area for that matter. As noted, the dwelling will be limited to guests, that is, people we know well. There is no intent for it to be used as an ongoing residence and would absolutely not rent the space. We have experienced a significant amount of bad behavior by nearby renters and would never add to that issue. We have been advocates for stricter rental guidelines in our community. My wife, Lori, has already served on 2 committees for that purpose, but it is a very contentious issue in our HOA. Quite frankly, if we could unilaterally ban rentals in our community, we would. We are full-time residents. Unlike some of the absentee rental owners in the community, we would never tolerate any actions or behaviors from those using the dwelling space which would negatively affect the enjoyment of the lake and surrounding area by the others. Thank you for considering our request.
Nathan, could you please have your seat? The staff have any comments?
So I will show you the ordinance on the lake overlay. Within 200 feet of the full pond contour in Lake Kiwi, shall have no less than 1/2 acre in size with a maximum density of 1 dwelling per 1/2 acre. So that is what the request is for. They are the 0.8 acres, and I will show you where that is on the lake. The highlighted lot is their lot, 355 the address. Proposed location is right in here. So they, I'll just reiterate what he's already said, they do already have the permit for the freestanding garage, not attached. There is no restriction on having that garage there. And it is just a decision on whether or not the full build out for the top portion to be bathroom and livable essentially, would be allowed. by this.
Occupancy permit?
Yes. Yes, that's correct. And happy to answer any specific questions you guys have.
Do we have any, you have anything further, James?
No, sir.
No? Okay, okay, then, why don't we?
Yeah, I have some questions.
Yes, go ahead.
When you compare this property to other properties in the area, I was told by some people that there's several lots in the area that are less than 1 acre, that some are over, some are less, but there's a majority of them are less than 1 acre. Is that a true statement?
Moving north, the next, let's just look at the next 5. So you've got 0.8, 0.9, 1.2, 1.3, 1.3. Across the street, 1.7, 1.2, 1.1, 1.1, 0.94, 0.8, and then 1.68. So anything from a 1/2 acre, it looks like the smallest thing's 0.6, up to 1.6, I think we saw.
So most of the properties are over 1 acre or more, is what it sounds like.
Split pretty well, yep.
Rather than get into a lot of discussion at this point, why don't we hear from the citizens and then maybe ask our questions after that, if that's okay with the board. We have one party that has asked to speak, as Kevin Minton. Please state your name for the record, please.
My name is Kevin Minton, and I appreciate the opportunity to share my personal concerns with this variance application. We live in a home that's located within the lake overlay and fully appreciate the benefit of the lake overlay in preserving the beauty of this area. Having a second residence or dwelling inside of an acre lot is a violation of the lake overlay. Allowing an exception would establish a precedent for other similar requests to be made, and I would caution you against doing that. There's nothing that would prohibit this owner or a subsequent owner to lease out the second residence, short-term or long-term, further violating the lake overlay. Having a second residence on a 0.8 acre lot is a clear violation of the lake overlay, and I highly recommend that you deny the special exemption request.
Thank you. Let's see, do we have, that was the only one that we had. We do have at least one letter. We have a letter that was submitted by James Codner. And I'll read that for you. It says, Mr. Coley, please provide this input to the board at the meeting on March 25th. Unfortunately, I am out of town and cannot attend in person. This note reflects my views only as a private citizen and not those of any organization or group I may be associated with. Thank you. Said to the Oconee County Board of Zoning Appeals. The subject variance request is to allow a second residential building on applicant's lot of 0.8 acres, 0.80 acres, at 2.5 residents per acre. This would put it in serious violation of the lake overlays, a maximum density restriction of 2 per acre. I strongly urge the board to not allow this request. As Mr. Kaiser states in his application, density is the overlay's key provision to control the impact of development on the lake. Without this restriction, water quality would suffer, boat traffic would increase, and overall loading on the lake would significantly impede the ability of all lake users to enjoy this precious resource. While he states that the second residence would only be for occasional use by family and friends, I could also be readily available to vacation rental sites. Users of this type are well known for disruptive behavior and peak usage times. The fact that Mr. Kaiser bought a lot that is too small to support a second residence is unfortunate, but not an extraordinary and exceptional circumstance that justifies a variance. Indeed, while these are lots in Peninsula Point that are over an acre, most are less than an acre. This lot at 0.8 acres is 20% under the 1 acre threshold. The fact that the topography of this lot is well suited for such a construction is immaterial. The variance application clearly violates the letter and intent of the lake overlay. I respectfully request that you not allow this deviation from its well-founded provisions. Thank you for your attention, Jim Codner, Seneca. Okay. Do we have anybody else in the audience that has not signed up that would like to speak on this subject? I'll give you an opportunity. If not, okay.
We have a letter from the homeowner association too.
Yes, that was included. He mentioned that. You could read that also. The committee hearing for density use of 355 McAllister Road, West Union, South Carolina, 29696. The Peninsula Point POA has no objection to the density uses proposed by the owners of Lot 14 at 355 McAllister Road for the improvements proposed. The Peninsula Point Board has made observation and agreement of this improvement at a PPN Executive Meeting, June 2023. Tina Batista, I think, Tasca, I believe it is, President, Peninsula Point POA. And that's all we have now. And now the board would like to deliberate.
I don't know of any way that you can guarantee that somebody's not gonna rent the property, right? Eventually, if they sell the property to somebody else,
Yeah.
that becomes rental property or a full-time lease of a second family, right? Also, when they went to get the permit for the garage, they didn't specify living quarters on top, so,
Yep.
you know, I don't know if they
Yeah.
knew that was the case.
Sorry, they did apply for the full garage with the build-out. We denied it.
Okay,
And then they went ahead and proceeded with the build for storage upstairs. So they did try and permit the
okay,
whole
got
thing.
it, that's good,
Just-
thanks.
Do we have anybody else care?
Yeah, so I guess where I was going on my line of questioning is that if one property that's under 1 acre gets the ability to have a second residence in that, there's a whole bunch of other properties that are the same size, and how can you say that, well, I'm gonna approve it in one case and not in the other case? So I think it is a very dangerous precedent, and I think density is one of the most important parts of the overlay, is to control density. And, so I don't see that there's any justification for approving the variance.
Yeah, I think if we were to approve this one, I think it just opened up the floodgate.
Right.
I think you have a good point there. Anybody else care to comment?
So is the garage the same size whether it's residential or not? In other
Yes.
words, it
Yeah, the
wasn't
garage
withdrawn.
is already, I believe I believe the garage is already constructed or is
I
under
don't believe it's
construction. No?
finished.
But it's been permitted
And
as a garage.
It's got a
with
restroom
storage,
in it already,
and it has storage ability up
upstairs,
over the
right?
top.
But
At
it's
the
got a
present-
restroom in it already, or
Not
to
the-
have
The
one,
I think he said the lower level.
but at the lower level, yeah.
Permitted to do a restroom in the lower level as of right now. But construction just started, it's just foundation right now.
If you don't mind, come back and answer a couple of questions. Your documents didn't include a septic tank permit. Do you have a separate septic tank permit from the house or the garage?
Did you say septic?
Yes.
Yeah, well, yes and no, because we got a septic approval for an initial location of the septic above the garage, the proposed garage location. We have since decided to move it, so we have another septic test imminent, actually probably within the week, for the new proposed location, about 60 feet away from where we did get approval. So there is approval pending on septic, but we're not expecting there to be an issue with that.
So your proposal is that you're gonna have two separate septic systems?
A separate one for the garage as opposed to the house, yes, sorry. Yeah.
And DHEC knows you already have another one on this size lot?
They know we have a garage, they know our house has one, obviously, and they approved the initial proposed location for the garage septic, but we are now moving it.
Can you pull up the map and show me the contours?
Yeah, I can. I can zoom in some more if you'd like.
Oh, that's good. So your current septic system is between the house and the lake?
That's correct.
Did you require any variances when you built your house?
No.
Is your driveway over the property line?
No. The line is in the wrong
These are
place
approximate.
on those maps.
Okay. Well, I'm with whoever spoke up and said that they were opposed. I just feel like, he may be here 5 years, he may be here 10, but whoever buys it next is gonna have the potential to do something. He can go ahead and have the garage and have his septic system there, but I still think that's too much on that size lot. I personally can't see having a detached garage when you have an attached garage. It's just too dense on the construction side, and all the dirt and moving and rain that we have. The lake is being silted every time it rains, and I just don't see this being in the best interest of the overlay. And I think that the position of having it finished to where you can have occupancy there, whether it be a grandchild or a student at Clemson that you've never met before, I still feel like it would be an impact on the lot itself. And the more times we allow the lot to impact the lake, the quicker it's gonna turn brown, and we're all gonna hate driving over it.
I respect your decision, your opinion. But remember, the garage is still being built, so a lot of that is.
I didn't have a choice in that.
No, I understand that. I guess, it's just my point that it's a little odd because it's a garage and then trying to add something as opposed to saying building a guest home where it's all or nothing, right? That's where this ask is a little different, that's all. That was sort of my point.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Not? Now, as we proceed,
Thank you.
I'm sorry? As we proceed with our deliberations, we go through 4 different questions. If any one of the 4 questions is in the negative, then the variance will be denied, and I just wanted to make that clear. Okay? So if we have nothing further, let's start our deliberations. There are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. Do we have a motion in the affirmative?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Do we have any discussion with regard to this? Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor of the motion? Those opposed?
Unanimous.
We'll go through each and every one of them, just to make sure we have a clear record on this. These conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. Do we have a motion in the affirmative?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Do we have any discussion on this item? If not, all in favor? Those opposed?
It's unanimous.
Because of these conditions, the application of this chapter to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. We have a motion in the affirmative.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? No discussion, all in favor? Those opposed?
It's unanimous.
The authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent uses or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. Do we have a motion in the affirmative?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? No discussion, all in favor? Those opposed?
It's unanimous.
Okay. Based on the evidence presented to the board, do I hear a motion that the proposed variance be denied?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor? Sorry, but we're unable to grant your variance. Okay, the next item is variance application VA 2400005. Dennis Francis is requesting a 9-foot variance to the front setback, TMS 241-04-01-005, with an address of 502 Windy Oaks Lane, Seneca, South Carolina, 29678. Would the applicant please state his name for the record?
My name is Dennis Francis.
Okay.
All right, what you have before you is an application to invade the front yard setback of our lot by approximately 9 feet, a maximum of 9 feet. This lot is, I think, somewhat unique from the standpoint that we have 3 front yards and 1 side yard. And that's because the lot is bordered on 3 sides by 3 roads: Hickory Lane, Windy Oaks Lane, and Logan's Way. This particular variance has to do with the front yard of the home. The front faces Logan's Way. The topography from the road falls away into my front yard, level area for the house, and then falls steeply then down into Hickory Lane. So it presents and has presented a difficult problem for us in water, flooding control, and erosion. We've tried several things over the years. The house was built in 2016. We've tried several things. Most recent was to use a French drain, which was installed a couple of years ago. That has helped with the flooding, but again, if you can picture it, Logan's Way rises from about 3 feet above my home to about 10 to 12 feet above my home at the other end. So water comes down Logan's Way, sheds into my front yard, and erodes the dirt, sends that silt, call it. And while the French drain has helped, it hasn't solved the problem. I did provide a couple of pictures for you. Just when the house was being built, I tried to show that basically the front yard was level with just a slight swale to the middle for drainage purposes. There is a catch basin off to the west side of the front yard to handle the water that would come off. And then I just, in my way, I'm not sure it's very good, but I gave you 2 pictures showing that slope, or that swale is now a slope. So it's fairly significant, and that's occurred over the past 7 years. The request basically is to bring the front yard back to where it was, have the retaining wall, which will not exceed 4 feet, including base, hold back that hillside coming down from Logan's Way, and allow us to have a front yard and allow us to control what is a fairly significant amount of water that comes down, especially with some of the spring rains we get. So that is the ask. I would point out, again, I gave and again, I'm not a professional landscaper, I'm not a professional drawer, but I did give the board a mock-up of how the wall would look. And basically, it's going to start on the east side of my house, approximately or up to 9 feet into the variance, but then curve where it eventually winds up coming out of the setback and basically into my property. In terms of, is this a self-created situation? No, not necessarily. I mean, erosion and water on a hillside are natural occurring events. Did the building of the house aggravate that situation? Yes, it did, but it didn't cause it. The home is governed by an HOA agreement. That HOA agreement, I believe, was created in 1923, was last amended in 1968, 67. There is no standing HOA board. There are no fees. We just have a set of covenants. Retaining walls weren't a thing, I guess, in 1923, so they're really not addressed anywhere in the covenants that I could find.
Have you dealt with an engineer to tell whether or not this retaining wall will actually solve your problem?
I talked with, the contractor who's doing it, and has a fairly significant history, Chapman Landscaping, they have a website. He's done some fairly significant retaining walls, drainage corrections, and his opinion was, yes, we could do that. A couple of other contractors that I talked to, and again, these are contractors willing to sell, so I can't tell you for sure they spoke from an engineering background or not. But basically, they all said, if you really want to stop that, you need to block it.
The reason I ask, I noticed from your drawing that it only goes up to where your driveway is. And if the water's coming off of Logan's Way, it could be coming off prior to that, where that wall is, and then get in behind it and not solve anything.
I see what you're saying. The property, once you get to that driveway apron, starts sloping this way more directly. And right now, I don't know if anybody who visited me when we were talking about this application, you can actually see a path where the water is working from the corner of the driveway apron down to Windy Oaks Lane. It's worn out the grass and exposed agate rocks and that type of thing. So I don't believe that it's already found its way out of my lot, going down to Windy Oaks Lane.
So what basically you're doing is taking a retaining wall and following that path down?
Yes. No, going the other way. In other words, the driveway apron, if I'm at the front of the house facing you,
Yeah.
the driveway apron is here.
Yeah.
The wall starts here to handle the
But-
rise from 3 feet to 10 to 12 feet.
Basically follows the path that the water's following at the present time?
On that side of the property, yes.
Where will the wall push the water to?
As I said, on the west side of the front yard, there is a large, I don't know what the official name of it, but basically it's a drain it's a collector, and that's offset to the back of the property. In other words, it's drained to the back of the property.
And draining into Hartwell.
Yeah, I mean, sure, yeah. I'm on a hillside above Hartwell, yep. Seneca Creek specifically.
Will that water, as it runs off of your property, will it impact anybody else's property?
No. No, on my one side is Windy Oaks Lane, which has got a drainage ditch next to the road to take the water away. And on the other side, there's one home, but there's a swale, a fairly deep swale between our two homes, and the water just tracks right down there, which is what it's always done. It just, now it won't spend time loitering in my front yard, it'll go immediately.
Anybody?
Yeah, it sounds like what you're looking at the retaining wall is to keep the soil from coming in, but what's going to happen with the water? All that water is now accumulating behind the wall, right?
There will be a drainage system behind the retaining wall. That's why I've asked for the up to 9 feet, because if the draining wall starts at the edge of the driveway apron, that's about 7 feet 6 inches into the variance. So I've added another 1 foot 4 inches in addition for a drain tile to go in behind the wall that will feed off to that swale between our property and it'll probably more directly go into the collection box on the side of my front yard.
So then you have all this water and the soil accumulating behind the wall. Is that going to build up with additional soil and somehow require you to build a bigger wall?
Well, I mean, it's possible. I can only tell you that in the 7 years it's been there, we've seen the rise, and hopefully the people that have come to me with their bids know their business. Like I said, I'm not an engineer. It's a good question. I will not come back to increase that wall because the wall's pretty expensive. So to do anything more to it, I probably at that point in time would have to do like a triennial or biennial where you go in behind the wall and scrape and push back dirt and something like that. I'm being told that won't happen, but
So
It's a good question.
One follow-up question then. If this doesn't get approved, what are your options and what would you do?
Basically, if it doesn't get approved, I'm going to have a landscaper come in and bulldoze out the dirt that's been accumulated in the front yard to re-level that. And basically, that'll become a maintenance item that every few years I'll have to have the bulldozer back and come in and clean it out again, depending upon the amount of erosion I see coming down from Logan's Way. So I view the retaining wall as more or less a permanent option. If I don't get it, then I'm going to have a landscaper come in every few years and reset the front yard and recorrect the swale in the front yard to properly drain into my collection pit. Sump box, not sump box, but the drain box, whatever
Pull
you
the
want to call
aerial photo back up. So you have a yard, you do not have plantings or anything to stabilize the soil.
it. There are a bunch of trees. I've tried for a period of 2 years in a row to put jasmine creeping vine to stabilize the dirt, and it's all dead. But there is, from the time the house was built, there would have been maybe 3 trees in the front. To where you see it today, it's almost all vegetation. Dozens of pines, some, mostly, I've forgotten the name of the tree, but it's with the seed that has the spikes on it.
Tulip.
Sycamores.
Hmm?
Sycamores.
Possibly, yeah, whatever, but there are probably, I haven't counted, but I'm just gonna estimate, maybe 100 different little trees and things that are there now. I've made it a point not to cut back that at all in an attempt to stop that.
Yeah, that's better.
I guess, okay. Anybody have any other questions? If not, would you please have a seat?
Thank you.
Anybody in the audience that hasn't signed up care to speak on the subject? If not, it is the board's pleasure. You have anything further you want to discuss? Or any other questions?
Well, it doesn't, I guess we don't know for sure whether there's a permanent solution, but the alternative isn't good either. And I don't see that it will have much of an impact on neighbors. If anything, they would probably be happy if some of the water problem and soil problem was solved.
Would it actually cut down the silt that would be flowing into the lake? I mean,
True.
that's a question. Would this wall help prevent his front yard
True,
from
good point.
contributing to the silt? I don't know.
James, do you have any comments that you want to make on this one?
So, they do have 3 front yard setbacks, so they have a 15-foot on the north, east, and
Yep.
south sides. And then a 5-foot setback on their one shared rear property line. The topography is fairly steep in the area. I did pull that up. It does drop off significantly. I think that map view actually
Well,
shows
you can
pretty
see that-
well how it's dropping off and breaking.
I don't think-
The retaining wall is a structural element that would be within the setback, so it is not allowed without a variance from this group. So that's,
And doesn't look like that it would have any impact on anything because of the topography, right?
it, it is in the setback.
Yeah.
So it is not gonna be directly against the road. Logan's Way is a county road. And I will add that walls under 4 feet do not require engineering in Oconee County. So only the walls that reach that 4-foot plus elevation are required to be stamped.
Anything further? If not, everybody satisfied? Start our deliberations then. And we had, nobody signed up to speak, so let's continue. There are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. Do we have a motion in the affirmative?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion? All in favor?
It's unanimous.
Unanimous. These conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. Do we have a motion in the affirmative?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion? No discussion, all in favor?
It's unanimous.
Unanimous, okay. Because of these conditions, the application of this chapter to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. Do we have a motion in the affirmative?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion? No discussion, all in favor? It's unanimous. The authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent uses or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. Do we have a motion in the affirmative?
So move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? No discussion, all in favor?
It's unanimous.
Unanimous. Okay, based on the evidence presented to the board, do I hear a motion that the proposed variance be approved?
So move.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? No discussion, all in favor? Motion carries, you have your variance, sir. Okay, the next item we have is variance application VA 24000006. Amy Cordana is requesting a variance to combine a portion of the right-of-way on Third Mate Court into their parcel and a front setback variance for a retaining wall. TMS number 111-02-03-015 with an address of 5 Third Mate Court, Salem, South Carolina, 29676. Sir, could you please state your name for the record?
Sure. Good evening. My name's Don Chapman. I'm the architect with Chapman Design Group and also the construction company Icon. So I believe, so this is the I think the subsequent or the earlier site plan before this one, I think may show what the existing conditions, and I can show a little bit about that and then what is to be proposed. You had one before that?
This is what was provided.
Okay, all right.
This is everything that was
Okay,
submitted.
so there's a site plan that I have here that's what it is, the existing conditions. The retaining wall in question is currently the old railroad ties that I think were original to the house. Amy and Don Coranda, they live at the property. I think her father built the home in the 70s. They've owned the home pretty much the entire time. And then they're wanting to do improvements. So the retaining wall that is to the left corner, if you see there's a Third Mate has a cul-de-sac. I believe that was never completed by the homeowners association. And it's basically, the railroad ties are basically holding back a little bit of grade and soil that's, and leaves and other things that get into the Third Mate cul-de-sac. At the bottom of the cul-de-sac, you see two catch basins that are there. We're going to introduce another catch basin that you see in the center of the driveway that is going to catch any additional water that comes off of the Third Mate Court. That'll be a DOT 3x3 minimum catch basin with a DOT grate on top of it. And then it'll pipe out to the property, have riprap at the end of the pipe so that it catches the water. But it also will tie back in to the one that's existing there, so we can bring those out at the similar location. But the retaining wall, we're adding a garage onto the backside, or on the upper part of the property, and then there's a retaining wall that's coming off of that that goes beside the driveway to hold back the grade. And then what we were wanting to do, and what the owners were wanting to do, was to replace the rotten wooden timber ties with a more permanent poured wall construction that will be veneered with the same natural stone that we're gonna do on the house.
Is the footprint of the wall going up the same as what the railroad ties were?
Correct. It's actually gonna be a little shorter because it's moving up onto the property. It's moving, I guess vertically up. And then so the wall will actually be shorter. It's just gonna follow the same line of the existing retaining wall.
Would you mind walking over there and showing me
Sure.
where the retention ponds are at?
Pardon?
Wherever the water's running off
Oh,
right
okay.
now, you said there was two of them.
Yes. So there's a catch basin right here.
Okay.
And then the second one we're gonna add, which is a 3x3 or a 4x4 by 4 foot deep with it's a DOT drain that you can drive over a large vehicle over the top of it. But that'll go here. The retaining wall is this right here. And you can see we're actually pulling it back just a little bit, but this front line is the wooden retaining wall, and we're just basically gonna follow the grade as it steps down and get lower as it turns the corner. So it follows the exact same line as the wooden retaining wall. And then if you see right now, the driveway does exactly like this. It follows this line. That's the existing concrete. What you can see is if it was ever been completed, it kind of did this. But all the grade is actually out here. And that's what the retaining wall is holding back.
How tall is the wall? It's at its highest point?
Pardon me?
How tall is it? the
So-
wall you're proposing?
When it comes off the house right here that's within the setback, this is 6 feet tall, then 5 feet tall, then 4 feet tall, and then it's probably 3 and then 2, and then basically will fade out to nothing. But everything that's exposed will be veneered in the same stone natural stone that's in the house. And then capped.
I'm trying to bump that in a little bit more. Those elevations are on there, but it's pretty small. See if that's any better for y'all to
Yes.
see.
Yeah, I think it says 6, 5, 4, and then it goes 4, and then 3, and then 2, and then it basically fades out. So it's to make it look like it ties back into the grade. And then Donna and Amy Miranda, unfortunately, they travel, and so they were out of town tonight, so they could be here to speak on behalf of it. So if you have any other questions, I believe that's.
Any questions?
One other thing I did want to mention, the Kiwi Key Property Owners Association, they approved the acquiring of the property. That was the little bit of section that this is going on. Thank you.
Hold on a second. At the end of the catch basin where you show going underneath the parking
Yes.
and then dumping out, it's on the property, but what are you doing to stabilize that, to keep the water and the silt from going into the lake?
Sure. Typically, what we do is we rip wrap with larger stone so that there's no silt that actually goes in. This is all road water that right now collects right here, overflows and then drains across the neighboring property and the Carandas property. What we're trying to do is we're gonna pitch any water so it hits this too, but the majority of this surface water goes to, everything will taper back to that area so that it's only surface water that'll be coming out here. But to slow it down, typically this is done with riprap and spreads it out so it dissipates slowly rather than washing.
Any additional questions for the gentleman? How about the staff? What do you have? Any
Yeah,
comments,
so-
James?
This actually started as a plat review. The neighborhood has agreed to sell a portion of this platted right-of-way to the property owners to combine with their lot so that they would have the space to do the project. So that's where this actually first came up was, obviously that platted right-of-way is a portion of the road system. It is not just the paved surface, that is the road. So in order to give away that platted right-of-way, they would require the variance from you guys. So that's the initial variance, is the request to reduce the right-of-way available in this cul-de-sac. It was not built out. You can kind of see where the pavement just kind of died out in
Yep.
here. The second request is for the retaining wall within the setback. So all those things said, they are building onto the house, which is allowed. They're not increasing any nonconformities with the actual living structure. So this is to reduce the right-of-way and then to allow for the retaining wall that's in that setback.
And that's within our purview to reduce the
is.
right-of-way?
Yes, there was one other document they submitted that is relevant, from the fire chief for
Yeah.
Kiwi District, who met on site with several of us when we all met out there. And he was okay with reducing that right of way. Obviously, a big part of having those big cul-de-sacs and right of way is for emergency access, and emergency services. So we did want him to weigh in, yes.
If it doesn't impact him, it wouldn't impact any of the
Well,
other
he's
property
the one who
owners.
has to service it if there ever was an emergency at the address.
And Kiwi Key doesn't allow school buses inside the gate, correct?
I don't know the answer to that.
Yes, they don't.
Okay,
Okay.
because turning a school bus around has to have a cul-de-sac too, if they allow them inside the gate, but they don't. Okay,
And happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
And I think this picture kind of shows, I think they were doing something on the survey, I think it clips this back. So,
Okay,
but it,
fine. If you have no further questions, then
Thank you.
be seated. Okay, any comments from the board? Buzz?
You do have public comments on this one.
Yeah,
Okay.
why don't we do it? We'll do the public comments. First I have a Mary Belcher that would like to speak.
I'm just going to concur with the contractors confirming. I represent the Committee for Architectural Review and the Environment, and the committee did approve the 29 and a half feet variance into the 30-foot front setback. And concurring with the Kiwi Key Property Owners Association did sell a piece of that property to the Carandas in order, because their driveway is basically in the cul-de-sac when they built the house back then in 1978. And actually, in addition to the neighbor to the left that gets a lot of drainage from the street, she's got a wonderful drainage system that collects catch basin on the right side of her property that takes it down to the lake into another catch basin, so it disperses before it enters the lake. So.
Thank you.
that's
Thank you.
all I
Does the
have.
board have any?
Thank you.
Any questions of Mary? Okay, thank you. We do have one letter that we received, and it came from Donald Cordana. Dear Mr. Coley, with her permission, I'm forwarding an email from our immediate neighbor, Adrienne Brandecker, regarding the proposed variance request and home modifications to the Third Mate Court in Salem. Please add this to your file for the upcoming variance meeting with the Coney County. Also, please be advised that there will be 2 representatives from the architect/builder Chapman Design Group /Icon Construction and Mary Belcher from Kiwi Keys Care Committee attending the meeting on March 25th. Okay. And we had the other letter was from Adrienne Brandecker. I live next door to the property at 5 Third Mate Court, seeking a variance from Kiwi Key. The Cardenas have been wonderful neighbors for many years, have kept me abreast of their renovation plans, and I have no doubt that they will add a positive impact to the neighborhood. When they expressed concern about drainage, they made every effort to understand my concern and execute a proposed plan, which I am satisfied will adequately address the drainage. They have also made every effort to let their contractors be aware during the building process to minimize as much as possible the impact of the neighbors in the cul-de-sac. I will not be available to attend the hearing. Thank you. Adrienne Brandecker. Those are the two letters that we have regarding that item. Okay, do we have any further discussion on this item from the board? Any comments? Okay, then let us start our deliberations. There are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. Do we have a motion in the affirmative?
So move.
We have a second.
Second.
Okay, do we have any discussion? No discussion, all in favor? Unanimous. These conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. Do we have a motion in the affirmative?
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Okay, do we have any discussion? No discussion, all in favor?
Unanimous.
Because of these conditions, the application of this chapter to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. Do we have a motion in the affirmative? We have a second.
Second.
Do we have any discussion? No discussion, all in favor?
Unanimous.
It's unanimous. The authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent uses or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. Do we have a motion in the affirmative?
So move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor? Aye.
It's unanimous.
Unanimous. Okay. Based on the evidence presented to the board, do I hear a motion that the proposed variance be approved?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? No discussion, all in favor?
It's unanimous.
Unanimous. Thank you. Variance has been granted.
Thank you, Madam.
Okay, the next item is variance application VA 24-000007. George Kelly of Fowler Outdoor Living LLC is requesting a variance to the rear property setback for a retaining wall. TMS 302-00-01-102 with an address of 604 Keswick Point, Salem, South Carolina, 29678. Would the applicant please come forward and state your name for the record?
My name's Daniel Fowler. Thank y'all for hearing me tonight. A little nervous, but very excited. I skipped my daughter's high school ball game, and she just hit her first home run. So, anyway, I do want to start by saying I'm the retaining wall contractor. If I'd have known it was a package like this, I probably could have presented it a little better. But anyway, what we're looking for is this particular lot has a 10-foot setback at the rear property where it meets the core line because it's in Grand Overlook and is considered an estate lot. Most of the estate lots are 10 to 40, 50 acre lots. This is a 3 acre lot. So with that being the case, the surrounding lots, under my understanding, are not estate lots and can have a retaining wall within that 10-foot setback. So what we're looking to do with the new construction home is move that wall out closer to the property line just to level up the yard and give them backyard space. Right now, the grade is approximately 3-to-1 slope. And by doing this, it'll let us build it up and gain more yard for their kids. We did have a soil and wall engineer out with GeoTrack Technologies. We went ahead and had the wall engineered because at the time, We were not aware of the 10-foot setback, but we moved forward with doing it, and so we're presenting the engineered plan, and the wall would be in that setback area for approximately 60 feet of the wall, and then it turns in and is out of the current setback as it currently is. So that's what we're here to present and try to get the variance to move it closer to that line.
The board have any questions?
Do you have any other pictures of this things or not?
So, yes, let me get back.
There's quite a distance between the lake and the core line, or the
So,
core line.
That's what
profile
lake.
view,
There's a,
map
there's a,
view.
Yeah.
it's
This
got
is
a,
the parcel. And our map servers just went down, so it's gonna, there it goes, it's taking a minute to catch up, but this is the piece right here, this is the house.
Yes.
And then the core line, the property line, and the shared line. So, all of our setbacks from the rear property line, we don't have any vertical or structural elements in those setbacks.
Yeah.
So regardless of the size of the lot, it would still have a setback on the rear where that retaining wall would require the variance from you guys.
Okay.
Can you lay the topo over it?
That's what I'm trying to get the load on the other side, so let me, see if I can pull that up for you real quick.
Do you mind walking over and showing me exactly
Sure.
where you're gonna put the wall?
I've got a laser pointer too, if that's helpful for you. Oh, sorry.
So the blue line is separation of the property line and the core line, and we're wanting to put it right off of the blue line, 1 foot in from the blue line, from this existing cart path, over 60 feet, and then turning in on both sides. The new home is approximately in this area here.
Thank you.
My topo map is not loading, so.
Once again, I would have provided more. I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was supposed to be a presentation per se, till I got here and seen it, so.
Okay, so when they build the wall, then you're gonna backfill it? and
Yes,
level
ma'am. It
up?
would be backfilled, and then it would have the French drain system behind it, which the engineer also showed in that particular view. So all of the current water that's currently shedding onto the natural area will still do the same. It'll just be controlled and slowed down.
what's the overall height of the wall?
Overall, it's 12 feet. Yes, sir.
That's a constant through the whole.
No, sir, 12 feet is just in the center. In this design, you can see that 12 feet will just be this section, and then it steps up, gradually getting back down to basically nothing on each end. So the 12 feet is just in the middle. Currently, there's about 18 feet of slope there between the backyard and the core line currently.
Yeah.
So we're bringing it up just to level a portion of it.
Tell me again where the water goes.
So,
Goes off this wall.
yes, sir. So, basically on that design, do you mind going back to that design? So what it is, if you notice, there's outlet pipes right here. Currently, the way it is, the elevation starts here and goes to here, and everything's just running off. With this type of design, the segmental design, this is a catch area for all the water that's from the house to the wall. Then every 40 feet on the next view, it'll show the exit pipes, but every 40 feet, there's a wall drain outlet on that design. So it currently will still do what it's been doing, it's just gonna direct it and catch it behind the wall. So it'll still go to the core like it currently is, if that answers your question.
And you can't back it up out of this overlay, the 10-foot setback, you can't move it backwards 10 foot.
You can move it backwards 10 foot. You're just changing the size of the backyard by 10 foot and 60, 70 foot long. We're trying to gain a more usable space. Yes, ma'am.
On the water discharge from the, underneath the wall, what are you doing to keep that from eroding into the lake?
Well, right now, there's currently, I don't know that exact footage, but it's 300 foot off of the lake, and it's all natural area, obviously coral.
Yeah, but it has a pretty good slope to it, right?
The lot itself,
Yeah,
on the
all the way
core?
down to the lake. So
Yes, sir, it does.
If you've got a lot of water, then it's gonna, if you haven't made any provisions for,
But that's what it's
riprap,
currently doing.
huh?
Right now, that's what it's currently doing. This is actually slowing the water down because of changing the slope itself.
No, but you're gonna have it, you've got, certain exit points from underneath the wall, and that's gonna be a concentration of water shooting out and going into the lake.
I understand what you're asking. On the front side of the wall, it gets a layer of riprap all the way along the front. So when the water comes out, it splashes that,
Okay.
and then basically is distributed out. In the engineering side of it, they call it a lid system, distribution.
That's a question.
So in your opinion, the wall is gonna reduce the amount of silt flowing into the lake, because it's slowing it down and dispersing it out more. Would you agree with that?
I think it reduces it drastically, especially until anything was ever established. Because of the slope, it's so bad that you're not gonna be able to establish grass. And if you sod it, you take a chance with staples, currently washing. Right now, there's 3 layers of silt fence just to prevent everything. So yes, it has to slow it down.
That riprap should catch whatever's there and disperse it so that it doesn't erode the soil further, right?
Yes, sir. What happens is when it comes out like that, it's similar to the last presentation, but instead of a well, it's more of a pad. And so it basically, once it hits, it spreads instead of concentrating into one specific spot. So,
Have any other questions? James, do you have anything?
So I think I already went over basically the request there, putting a structural element within that setback. We've heard actually 2 of those already
Sir,
tonight as well.
you can have your seat.
Um,
Blake.
There we go. We do need to determine that offset, if it's gonna be confirmed 1 foot from the property line for that, or where that exactly is gonna be, so that we can write the order correctly.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
So you're saying we need to know the exact distance from the core line
The property line,
or
yes.
property line?
Yeah, I think you said 1 foot, but we just need.
Is that exactly what it's gonna be?
we can locate it wherever you request. On all other properties on the core, you can go up to the core line, but we typically hold off 1 foot so there's no confusion.
And is that to the discharge pipe here, the foundation?
That's to the face of the wall.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So then the pipes would extend out beyond that.
And the riprap.
Yeah, the pipes and the riprap would extend out to the line.
Is that a problem with the riprap extending it beyond the core line?
So, that'd be a question for the Corps. We wouldn't recommend anybody to do anything on property they don't own.
How much space would you need to put
That's a
rip?
decorative item like currently it already is there. I mean, boulders and natural stuff.
Yeah, but have you talked with the Corps about putting that riprap there to soften the,
I haven't
Displacement
talked
of
with the
water?
Corps about that, no. I do know that the Corps uses riprap on all of their sea walls. But with that being said, if it's a variance issue, we'll stop the riprap at the property line and we can set the wall in 2 feet. We're still gaining backyard space.
That's what I was gonna ask you, is how much room do you need for the pipes coming out and the riprap?
18 inches,
18 inches?
yes, sir.
Okay, well, I'd say then we go back 3 feet or whatever.
About
it is.
would 3 feet be acceptable?
Could we do 2? I mean, if we need 18? And that'll allow us 2 feet of riprap and pipe and then the wall.
I'm wondering how much 2 feet of riprap's gonna do for you?
Well, the pipe itself only sticks out 6 inches from the wall.
Yeah, so so basically with that, with 18 inches, you're looking at about a little over a foot of riprap to disperse it. that's a lot, you're gonna get a lot of water to be dispersed. Over with
With
a
all
short-
due respect, we build 40 to 50 walls a year.
Yeah.
And that is dispersed evenly.
Even with
It's
a,
not-
even with a small amount of riprap?
Yes, sir. With that being said, we're so far off the lake and it's all natural area, and a pipe's dispersed every 40 feet. So you're only carrying, 20 feet of water each way. The amount of water coming out of this is very minimal. It's sitting like a gutter drain on a house that's dumping. I mean, this is a French drain, so essentially, it's not constant water.
Any
And would it
further?
go all the way over to where that draw is shown, right above the blue mark on his corner? You see the blue mark there? Would it go into that draw? Are you gonna put the wall?
No, ma'am. Right here where this cart path is, the wall length total is 100 foot. That's 20 feet of curve, 60 feet of straight, and 20 more feet. So the wall only extends to approximately where my finger's at right here.
Okay.
So,
So let me go back to that one, sorry, I'm not trying to cut you off, but
Yep.
you can see the footprint of the house,
Mhm.
staying basically within that footprint.
this
Okay.
property line
So that,
that you're asking is over here.
okay.
I'd say, 2 or 3 feet versus 1, and whether or not there needs to be more riprap or not. I mean, these guys do it for a living, so I don't know if another foot of riprap makes a difference or
I
not.
don't either.
I just feel like they need a little bit of a buffer that's not there, because once you disturb the vegetation, that blue line has no meaning, and I've just seen too much silt going into the lakes, and Hartwell's already brown from silt, so it's not gonna get better unless we make them do better. And if you do 2 foot, you don't have room for him to set up a silt fence and still put up the wall.
Yeah.
So while he's working, everything there is gonna be exposed and into the lake. If we have a heavy rain, when he starts grading to put in the footers for this wall,
So what is your feeling, 3 feet you think would be adequate?
I think it has to be 3
Yeah.
feet, just to have room to put in silt fencing and put protection in. I know there's a great big piece of land between where he's building it and the water, but we also have heavy rainfalls, and I would hate to see it overflow and create a bigger issue.
Do you have something to add?
Well, I was just gonna say, we currently have a silt fence right on the property line. And so that silt fence, I mean, we can work within 2 feet of that. The issue with silt eroding over onto it is when that silt is 3 feet tall and spills over the fence. And we're essentially keeping it behind. Just going to this extent, it may not sound like much, but every foot we gain is more space, because after that, we're still losing yard space by having to put up a fence behind the wall because of the size of it and all. So we would just like to gain as much yard as possible.
Understand. What are the other members? You feel 2 to 3 feet? What would be your preference?
My preference would be 2.
Bill?
And my preference would be 3. I don't think we really need to consider how much backyard space they want for the kids. That's not, I think what we're dealing with is the risk of water going and the silt going the wrong place at the wrong time.
I'd say 2.
Uh-oh, you got to break a tie, because I'm gonna say 3. I mean, you've got a natural draw there already that the water's got a tendency to go into, and you're gonna have the riprap at the backside of this wall. And I can't see it going anywhere but downhill, and that means it's gonna go into the draw and into the lake. And as it goes down through there, as much drop as it is, it's not gonna slow down, it's only gonna get faster.
I don't think that the difference between 2 or 3 feet is gonna make that much difference for the property owner. And my feeling would be that, I think go the 3 feet. So from our standpoint, in polling the board, we would look to put a condition on it that we would move forward with the variance, and go through our questions, and put a condition on the end that it be with the condition that you stay 3 feet behind the core line and the property line.
Can I ask him a question?
Go ahead.
So what is this extra foot gonna do for what you're doing as far as distribution of the water, since you've got the wall and it's coming out in pipes?
This extra footage is not doing anything. Right now, currently, they built a very large house, that's been under construction for 2 years, and we've got zero issue with silt washing currently. What we're doing is only gonna improve the site. I mean, in all other instances, they let us build right to the line. Us building a wall is something that's gonna take 7 to 10 days' time, and the house has been under construction for 2 years, and we don't have a silt issue. And the draw that's being referred to is nowhere near where we're talking about this silt. If you look on the topo map, it's way out of that draw. Where we're building the wall, it's got the same topo elevation. If you don't mind showing that topo again. The draw you're referring to is over here. This wall stops right here. All of this topo and elevation is exactly the same. All of this is natural. This is the area we're talking about doing right here. It's very minimal on the property, as well as the amount of construction that's currently been going on.
No.
We're talking about 10 days' work maximum. And we can't build the wall during the rainy season. We have to get good weather for compaction purposes. So whether we're talking 1 foot or 3 foot, it's not any difference. Normally, we get all the way to the line.
My thought is with the, not knowing how much water is coming out of those drains, having a sufficient area to disperse it is my concern.
It's a good question, and like I was saying a while ago, this is not permanent running water. This drain only operates during a rainfall is all, and it's very minimal. The riprap is probably overkill, truth be known. 90% of the retaining walls that built or don't get them, but this size wall, being a little taller, we would put riprap right in front of those drains.
So all the other walls you build them right on the line, and then the pipes extend past the line?
The pipes extend out 6 inches, yes,
Past
because
the line.
that's called landscape. It's not a permanent structure. Yes, sir.
Just a quick, why wouldn't you build it so that the pipes are on this side of the line also?
It's never been an issue. It's just, they allow us to go all the way to the core line with the face of the wall. It's the way it's set.
Thanks.
Yes, sir. And in that case, they even make some cap systems that go in flush with the wall and the water could dump out. We try to get out 6 inches past it, so there's never any footing erosion underneath. Yes, sir.
So with the French drain, how much water comes out of those pipes?
Well, that all depends on the amount of rain that we're getting at the time.
Say it's a
I mean-
heavy rain, you have a heavy rainfall, what,
You would never see water come out of it like a hose pipe. It's never that strong.
just a little.
Because the gravel in the ground absorbs it. It
Yeah.
absorbs most of it. It's more for overflow.
So it's just a minor amount of water?
Yes, sir, it is. And that's why they have an exit also every 40 feet. That's what the engineers suggest in the drawing.
Nope.
So that you're not putting too much water into one spot eventually.
Would you say, is it as much as a garden hose?
No, sir.
Not
That's
even
what-
that?
That's why I said it's not like a garden hose. It's not a steady run,
Okay,
um,
okay, if that's the case,
you know.
all right.
Well, the only problem I see is when he gets done with it and he builds this wall, they're gonna backfill it, they're gonna plant grass, they're gonna fertilize it, they're gonna add chemicals to it. Those chemicals are going right down that wall and right into the lake. That's why we have the zone between us and the lake at Kiwi. That's when we have the overlay, we have the vegetation. They have vegetation here, but once he gets that lawn set up behind that house and he goes right into the wall, then everything that they put on that grass and around those plants is gonna go into the lake.
This is, for the record, this is on Hartwell, not Kiwi.
I understand,
Yeah,
but it's still a
and they're
body
gonna-
of water that we have to protect.
I understand that. But then it's gonna be a slope that is gonna be hard to control, and they're gonna have to plant some type of grass on it either way. And until that happens, you're gonna deal with more silt and more erosion. This is simply trying to correct more of that problem.
Yeah, but I think Gwen's problem is that as the water permeates the soil, it's gonna take the chemicals with it, and then they're gonna discharge them at the bottom of the wall. But that really wouldn't be any different than if you had a regular open lawn and somebody were to put fertilizer on it, the same amount's gonna run into the lake. I don't think it's gonna be,
And then the
wall's
coal
gonna
line,
make a
150 feet from the lake or something, 200?
I don't know that exact footage. I'm sure it could be scaled pretty easy, but
It varies significantly. It varies significantly.
It looks like it's a very, pretty good distance between the core line and the shoreline.
I can give
It's
you.
probably half again the size, tell me, what's the distance between the house and the wall?
you don't see the current house on here, but that's 50 foot on the site plan. So if you scale it in reference to the lake, that's what I'm saying. I think it's 150, 200 foot. Ron, do you know approximate footage of that?
It's, well, the rear property line is 351 feet. The blue line running left to right is 351 feet.
Right here, right here.
So it's at least half of that, if not
That's
two-thirds
pulling
of that.
147.3 from the top of bank to that property line.
You said 147?
Yeah,
Huh?
I mean, I'd ballpark at 150 and feel pretty.
About 150, 150 feet roughly? Yeah, okay.
So that's one location, it's gonna
I'm
vary though.
convinced
so
that,
It'll be shorter
that
here.
should not, that shouldn't cause any problems for the lake, I wouldn't think. 150 feet to absorb that small amount of water.
So I think what you're saying to us is that whether it's 2 feet or 3 feet, that extra foot to go to 3 foot isn't gonna make any difference at all in terms of the distribution of water.
Out of the water, no, sir, but it will help us with the backyard and give us more room, obviously, for fencing and so forth.
And I think our concern was if we added additional foot to it, to go to 3 foot, that we're safer, that we're keeping more of the water and silt back, but you're saying that's not, shouldn't be a concern to us.
No, sir. Essentially, we really wanted to build it a foot off of the line just for that reason, to have that foot of discharge, which is very minimal. We'd love to have a foot. If we have to settle with 2 or 3, we'll take what we can get, but it's very minimal. Yes, sir.
Pull the board again one more time. Jim? How many feet?
2.
2?
2.
2.
Gwen,
I'm gonna abstain on this one.
you're gonna what?
I'm abstaining on this one. I'm not
Convinced?
comfortable with it.
I'll go with 2 also.
You done with me, sir?
Yes,
Thank you.
let's go. We ready to start our deliberations? Before I do that, though, we have a couple of others. We have to, this one came from Cynthia White, and said, I'm writing in support of variance VA 000007. Proposed changes improve, in my opinion, the value of the homeowner, to the homeowner, without compromising the community standards. Adapting to residents' needs is crucial, and this variance aligns with our vision to allow reasonable architectural and landscaping design. Please approve variance VA 000007. Thank you, Charles Waldo, Cynthia S. White, 337 Grand Overlook Drive, Seneca, South Carolina.
And that's the thing we fight. I mean, isn't it, we fight the thing that everybody's worried about, architectural look.
Yeah.
And that versus what's happening, what does it do to the lake?
Yeah.
And when you multiply that by 50,000 homes or whatever it is, I mean, That's what we're trying to protect.
No question. This one came from Jim Cato. I am writing to support the variance VA 000007. The proposed changes improve, in my opinion, the value of the homeowner without compromising the community standards. Adapting to the residents' needs is crucial, and this variance aligns with our vision to allow reasonable architectural and landscaping design. Please approve the variance. Thank you, Jim and Jenny Cato, 602 Keswick Point, Seneca, South Carolina.
Two people have the same tablet or template. They have the same word.
Same thing. Okay. Let us start our deliberations. There are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. Do we have a motion in the affirmative?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Okay. Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor? It's unanimous.
No. When did?
Dick, when did you?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you raised your hand, I'm sorry. When?
No, sir.
Okay, opposed?
That's me.
Okay, one opposed. These conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. Do we have a motion in the affirmative?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Any discussion? No discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Unopposed. Because of these conditions, the application of this chapter to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. Do we have a motion in the affirmative?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, do we have any discussion? No discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, with one opposed. The authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent uses or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. Do we have a motion in the affirmative?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Okay, any discussion? No discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? One opposed. Based on the evidence presented to the board, do I hear a motion that the proposed variance be approved with the condition that the setback of the wall will be 2 feet? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion? No discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? One opposed. Motion carries. You have your variance.
Thank you all.
Okey-doke. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?